Salukis, Jeff Gleim, Executive Director of the SIU Alumni Association, and I can't believe a whole year has gone by. We'll make a few jokes about that later, but here we are again for what's one of my favorite times of the year, the NCAA March Madness. We tried something different last year. We called this event Bracketology. And we put a little different twist on it, and I'm going to introduce our guests here in just a second. But we kind of took a X's and O's approach to some of our picks as we were picking our teams. And then we also took a scientific approach, if you will, as to maybe why people in their brains picked the teams that they did. So with me again, by popular demand, and that's going to be one of the jokes that we talk about. I have one of the voices of Saluki basketball, Mike Trude. I'm sure our entire audience has been very familiar with the work that Mike does an outstanding job. And on screen, we're really pushing technology here. We have Dr. Michael Hylin. So Mike is a neuroscientist. I get that right, Mike?
Yep.
Fair? So some of you who did not tune into this last year, you might understand this Mike, but how about the other Mike? And while I think Mike's behind the scenes work and pick selection is going to be critical as I'm making mine, I know a lot of you out there have done this your entire life and know I could probably just close my eyes and pick one and have as just good of a chance. But I think Dr. Hylin brings a different perspective to how and what and why goes into what makes a person, what goes through their brain when they're making a selection. So we're going to kind of go back and forth, and we are going to go through the brackets. The running joke behind all this is the three of us, I thought at the end of last year, our brackets looked pretty good.
Yeah.
At the end, they weren't so good. And a lot of people out there that were watching actually did listen to us as they were making their picks and their selections. So little footnote, we apologize up front, but let's just kind of dig into it. So Mike, I'm going to start with Dr. Hylin. Talk to us a little bit about the science again of what goes through a person's mind when they're making a selection.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think like anything else, we tend to believe that we're rational. We guide ourselves by the data kind of deal, here. But what we see time and time again in neuroscience and psychology in general, that's not always the case. We're probably better guided, by our own experiences and in our own, kind of past histories. So we tend to gravitate towards things that we're familiar with, things that make us maybe feel even more or less comfortable, if you will. This flies, sometimes in the face of clear hard data saying you shouldn't go with this option, but you go against it. So something, of course, speaking about the brain, it a little bit of it's, things like your frontal lobe, your decision making, centers, your centers that are involved in recalling memories, past experiences, maybe even a little bit of that emotional, connection to things that make you feel good or, make you feel a little nervous or afraid, for making a bad decision. Now, stuff like that, I think, kind of guides us.
So, Dr. Hylin, you touched upon a question I want to ask both of you is, so as I was prepping for this last night and the brackets came out and my wife and I were talking, so I think my wife is going to be watching this. She was really into, you mentioned about the data. So, I mean, we were talking about records, maybe conferences. We even got so broad as school colors, mascots, some of those things. So here's my question to both of you, and I'll start with you first, Mike, is if you're doing this, how much time do you like I spend a lot of time on thinking about it, but are we better off of just go with your gut? And Dr. Hylin, I'm going to ask you the same question. Are we better off really analyzing this? So what's your stance on this?
Yeah, well, I'm like you. I've done this for years and years and years and years. And I think the way that I go about it has changed from when I was 20 to where I am now. Back then, I would dig into every statistical category, conferences, head-to-head, all the things you can look at from maybe an analytical side of things. Because back in my 20s, I didn't have a lot of ties, or I wasn't emotionally involved with some of these teams. Now, as I get older and I've gone through this process for a long time, I let emotions come into play. I let biases come into play,
Right.
just because maybe I don't like the coach. So I don't want that team to do well. So I will pick against that team just to satisfy my own bias. And it's not always the successful way to do things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I find out as I'm getting older, when I'm picking between two teams and it's a 7 versus a 10, I'll go, let's see, how many times has a 7 beat the 10? How many times does that 10-7 upset happen? Then I'll look at the two teams, and then I'll go with my gut generally these days. So my gut seems to have a bigger play than it once did when I was all about the facts.
Makes sense. And Dr. Hylin, where do you stand? You heard what
Oh,
Mike said. Where are you on this?
I like to think I try to be as rational as possible, but this year I did something a little different, not related to the NCAA, but I participated in a fantasy football league with some friends, and what I've learned through watching it's you just can't you could do your best to predict, you do your best to go with data, but because these things are happening in real time, you don't know when someone's going to be out for an injury or an illness, now with people popping positive for COVID, or some controversy comes out and someone's benched, or fine. You can't predict those kind of things. So I think often we just end up relying a little bit more on our gut, as we call it, our gut. Of course, it's really our experiences that we're kind of going off of. But I think we have this tendency to believe and rationalize, well, I picked this because, this XYZ factors here really kind of play into that. So we're really good at rationalizing our choices, even when our choices may not necessarily go with what the data or prediction should tell us to go with.
How has yours changed?
You changed it back on me here. I really just go with my gut. Even though I look at records or I have the data in front of me, I don't know. I've been doing this not to the extent of what you've been doing, but I've been watching basketball literally all my life, and this is literally something I just love. And I feel like I got a 50-50 shot anyway with just my gut. If and Dr. Hylin, I don't know if you believe in this, but I mean, I have with my boys at home, one of my sayings is think long, think wrong. If I think too long, 9 times out of 10, I feel like I'm wrong all the time.
Overthinking.
So I don't know. I kind of go with my gut, and I maybe give it 1 or 2 seconds and just kind of go from there. Before we go on to this, though, the tricky part, and I'd be curious to know from both of you if you told anybody you were doing this again, and if anybody gave you any advice. But the hard part about this is every single year since I can remember being a little kid, it's always one of those. It's never, well, I guess in history, the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 seeds have won, but it's always that one team, that Butler team or that Loyola team or somebody like that you never expected to get this far. That Dr. Hylin, as much as I respect the work you do, and Mike, the same thing with you, with your experience in all this, none of us could ever predict that one underdog, which is why I think this is the best sporting event in the United States.
Yeah, and I think they talk about the tournament in what's the matchup. It could be Arizona against any team, but if the matchup suits that other team better than Arizona could be the best team on the planet, but really struggle against the matchups that the other team presents to them.
Exactly.
And there's your 1-16 upset that has never happened before.
Right.
And I shouldn't say ever will, highly unlikely that a one will ever lose to a 16. But if the matchup is wrong, it can happen. That's why they say on any given day, one team can beat another. Probably not always the case, but in this tournament, when you don't know until you win who you're going to play next.
That's right.
That makes it that much more difficult.
And you just highlighted why I love this.
Yeah.
So I tell you what, I want to be cognizant of time. People are doing this over a lunch hour. So why don't we just jump in and we can talk a little bit more about the scientific aspect or the X and O aspect of why we're going to go with this. So Dr. Hylin, if you're okay, we're just going to jump in and go ahead and start. So we'll start in the West. We'll start with Gonzaga. So we got Gonzaga playing Georgia State, a 1 and a 16. And we can talk about some of these, or we can just go, it's a chalk pick and we can just keep moving. But Mike, I'll start with you.
If Gonzaga loses this game, it would probably be one of the biggest upsets ever in college basketball. Yeah. And the Zags will roll.
Okay. Mike?
Oh, I went with Gonzaga as well on this one, just because they were number one, and like Mike said, that'd be a big upset. I wholeheartedly agree.
Okay. We're looking at next. We got Boise State and Memphis. That's a 8-9 matchup. Dr. Hylin, how's it go to you first?
I felt like this was a bit of a coin flip, and I could be wrong on this one, but I personally went with Boise. I just felt like they were a little bit stronger in this matchup, but I think this could go either way.
Mike?
I went with Memphis because of their late season play. Penny Hardaway, their head coach, tournament experienced, beat Houston just a week ago, lost in the conference tournament, but beat Houston badly and has the ability. Memphis is one of those teams that has the ability to win a few games. Unfortunately, they're going to run up against Gonzaga in the second round should they win this one, but I think Memphis can get it done.
I went with Memphis as well, so I think we're all pretty much in unison here. So let's move on to UConn and New Mexico State. Here again is our first 5-12 conversation. This one's tough, so Mike, I'll start with you.
I think New Mexico is a phenomenal team at home. They had to play last year the entire season in Arizona because of the shutdown in the state of New Mexico. But UConn is just one of the strongest, most physical rebounding teams out of that conference, and I think the 5 beats the 12 in this one.
Mike?
I agree. I mean, UConn's been around. This isn't their first rodeo, so I absolutely went with them.
Well, I'm right there with you, so it's unanimous on this for me. I just think with UConn's, with the league that they're in and just the way they're playing right now, they look like a tough out. So, okay, we've got Arkansas, who's a 4, and Vermont is a 13. And this is one that I flagged.
Me too.
I really, when I was putting pencil to paper on this one, I struggled because I watched Arkansas, SEC. I mean, they're playing well, but I tell you, Vermont, this could be that team that could be that Belmont, or that just kind of surprises you, I think.
Yeah.
So I'll start on this one. So I went with my gut. I went with Arkansas, but boy, as I was writing Arkansas, I think I wrote ONT at the end. So, I mean, I just really was 50-50 on this one. But thoughts on Arkansas and Vermont?
I think Arkansas is a team that could be in the Elite Eight, and they're a team that could lose to Vermont. And I picked Vermont because Arkansas did not play well in their conference tournament. They struggled a little bit down the stretch. They were all the way to almost number one in the country midway through the year, and then kind of hit a tailspin. And I just think Vermont's offense and veteran team, they are a veteran basketball team. They had 2 or 3 players come back for their 5th or 6th year. They have enough offense to get it done.
Dr. Hylin?
Yeah, I agree with Mike's point on Vermont. I went with Arkansas as well. I did kind of the gut thing again. I think this will be an interesting one to see how it plays out, though. I probably am going to be wrong, knowing kind of my luck on picks.
So I put a little asterisk beside this one, just for our audience. We'll go through the first round and we'll pick everybody, and then we'll come back and I put a star here. We'll try to go through the whole bracket if you're both okay with that. But maybe because we may be off on some of them, but we'll pick the ones that maybe there was the biggest discrepancy and talk about why as it takes us through. So let me jump here. We do have 4 play-in games, if you will. So this is the first matchup. You've got Rutgers / Notre Dame playing tomorrow afternoon. Either of you want to take a stance on either one of those two who are going to have to play Alabama?
I mean, I picked Rutgers.
Yep.
Notre Dame could easily win the game. The Big Ten, I hate to say this.
Here we go again.
Is allegedly
the
strongest conference. Rutgers played everybody tough, whether it was home or on the road. They're just a team that's not going to get blown out by anybody, and I like Rutgers in close games with opponents, and Notre Dame's not the team this year that's blowing anybody out.
No.
So I think Rutgers in a close game beats Notre Dame and then beats Alabama.
Yeah, we'll come back. Dr. Hylin, your thoughts on this one real quick.
He must, Mike must be reading my mind because, I went right with Rutgers there as well. And then, I don't know. I mean, maybe it'll be a tough one with Alabama, but I see them coming out there.
I was ready to asterisk this one too, but we're all in unison. I'm taking Rutgers over Alabama.
Alabama's a scary team. Again, they can maul you or they can just play horribly.
Yeah.
They've just been inconsistent. They're another team that was number 1 in the country.
Right.
I mean, there were 7 or 8 teams who were number 1 this year at one time.
Yeah. So Texas Tech, Montana State, we got a 3 versus a 14. I went chalk on this. I went Texas Tech on this one. Mike, you?
Same thing. I mean, I have a lot of friends in Texas who are Texas Tech fans who'll probably hate hearing side with them, but I went Texas Tech.
They're one of the best teams coming into the tournament right now.
Yeah.
And I don't think they have any problem with Montana State.
Yeah, I think they're scary good.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's one. This is, I think, one of the tougher ones, the first tough game, in my opinion. Rutgers, I don't think that was – I think a lot of people will pick Rutgers. Mm-hmm. But when you get to Davidson and Duke.
Well, it's Davidson, Michigan State first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Davidson and Michigan. I guess I already tipped my hand. So, okay. Well, you know where I stand. So, oops. Yes. So
you've got Davidson over Michigan State.
I do. And I love Coach Izzo, but
I love him too. And Davidson they're fun. And the way they won their conference and the tournament was amazing.
One of the best games of the weekend.
One of the best games of the weekend by far.
Yeah.
But if Michigan State plays the way Michigan State can play, they win the game.
I agree.
But that's the only reason I took Michigan State.
Yep.
Because they should be the better team. Mm-hmm. That was the hardest one for me to do, was not picking Davidson.
Ooh. Okay. Mike, what do you think?
No, Davidson was tempting. I mean, you look at their record. Absolutely, I agree, but I don't know Michigan State. I mean, I just kind of went with that. Went on a gut feeling again.
All
So
right.
I'm right there with you with Michigan State, and then versus Duke. I mean, not to tip the hat as well, but yeah, I think it'll be Michigan State Duke instead of
Ooh.
Davidson.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll be a fun one to re-explore. So, Duke, Cal State Fullerton. I'm just going to make an assumption.
Yeah.
We all taking Duke.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean,
All right.
by a long, yeah.
So, moving on down here into the East, I'm looking at Baylor, Norfolk State.
Not an issue.
All right. I think we're all going with Baylor. Mike, I don't want to.
Okay. Yeah. No, but yeah, by far, I'd be shocked.
Here's another one where I struggled. You got an 8 seed in North Carolina and a 9 seed in Marquette. I'll start this one. I went with Marquette. I watched North Carolina. They've been hot and cold. And I had to pick with, and you're not talking about a big difference between 8 and 9, but
No.
I thought I'm going to be different because I bet a lot of people pick North Carolina, but I chose Marquette.
I went with North Carolina just because the competition day in and day out is better than Marquette, but Marquette can rebound the basketball and are very good defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And so North Carolina is going to have to be able to score to win that game, but I did pick North Carolina.
Mike?
I went with North Carolina as well. Just they've been good in the past, so I just kind of keeping on tradition.
Well, you're using your brain there when you talk about
Yep.
tradition, so that's good.
Going off of those experiences.
That's right. Here's one that my son and I talked about. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, but we're back to another one of those playing games between Wyoming and Indiana. So let's start there. Any thoughts on that game for Tuesday?
I went with Indiana on the Wyoming Indiana game. I think I don't know, a little bit of past history. I mean, I just don't see Wyoming doing it. But again, I could be wrong. They could squeak it by and squeak it out.
Yeah, they're both two of the last teams in the tournament, number one. And IU, again, Big Ten should beat Wyoming. I won't be shocked if Wyoming wins the game because Indiana showed in the semifinal game that they were human again. And again, but Indiana had something to play for. They knew they had to win at least 2 games to get off the last 4 in to be in the tournament.
Right.
And Wyoming was pretty much in the same boat, although they had a little bit better resume. So I don't think they were as pressured, but they were one of the last teams in. I think Indiana's overall talent is better than Wyoming, and that's why I picked them.
Okay, I'm right there with you. And I'm looking at my line, and when you look at St. Mary's, I listened to all the prognosticators last night, and St. Mary's is sounds like from this year, they're the real deal. They've got a good team. I initially had written St. Mary's in here, but I went back with my gut. So that was one of those whole brain issues that I had, St. Mary's or Indiana. And I ended up writing down Indiana, and I don't know where you guys.
I took Indiana as well. St. Mary's is going to slow the game down,
Right.
possession by possession by possession. And if you don't score on those possession by possessions, Indiana's a team that can fill it up and score and defend you. So I just went with the team that has been more consistent scoring, because you do have to score, and Indiana can play at a fast pace or a slow pace.
Mike, where are you?
I agree, and I thought it'd be kind of a nice little like Cinderella story there, kind of come back,
Yeah, I agree. UCLA, Akron.
UCLA.
UCLA.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm in agreement.
Here's one where I think we may differ. We're looking at Texas as a 6 seed and Virginia Tech at 11. I'll start this one. I wouldn't want to play Virginia Tech to save my life. They scare me to death. They look so good. in the tournament. I picked Virginia Tech.
Yeah, and I don't think they're just happy to be there.
No,
because they had to work their tail off to get there. So I think they're still on a mini mission, so to speak. So, yeah, I've got them beat Texas too.
Okay.
Yeah, I as well. I just see them kind of stomping over Texas on this one.
Moving on, I watched the Princeton-Yale game, and that was another one of those barn burners for the weekend. And just a great game. As much as I love cheering for the underdog, they're just too much.
Too much size, too much skill. Yeah. I think too much everything.
Murray State, for those of you who don't know, Murray State's they're going to join the Missouri Valley Conference next year. So we're going to get to see a lot more of them.
Unfortunately.
Interesting.
18th NCAA tournament.
Isn't that incredible?
It's incredible.
Wow. And boy, I tell you that they're also scary good. And the San Francisco team too, they're legit too.
Yes.
I struggled a little bit with this one. I just thought Murray State might be a little bit better, but I don't.
Yeah, no, I agree. The backcourts for both of these teams are unbelievable. So the guards are pretty well offsetting each other. And Murray has the big guy Williams in the middle, who is just phenomenal.
Right.
And San Francisco has decent bigs, but not the dominant big like Murray has. And Murray and the NCAA tournament just are synonymous with each other.
Exactly.
I think they're going to win.
Mike, how you feel?
I don't disagree. I mean, I put San Francisco just out of principle. I don't know. I couldn't go with Murray State.
Okay.
I think that's just more of like feeling like rooting for competition in your backyard.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
So I don't go with my pick here, but I went with San Francisco.
Okay. No, that'll make this interesting. So I'm going to make a strong assumption we're all picking Kentucky.
Yeah.
No disrespect to St. Peter's. They've earned their way in
I
there.
felt like it'd be bad to not pick Kentucky there.
Yeah. So that gets us through half of the first round. So we're going to come over into the South, and obviously we're spending a little bit more time on the first round selections and what we can get in, but we're doing great on time. It's just now 12:30, so we're doing pretty good. So here again, Arizona, we've got a playing game here with Wright State and Bryant.
Mm-hmm. Bryant.
Mike, I'll start with you. Just your pick between the playing game and maybe I don't want to make
the playing game. I could see as a coin toss. I hate throwing it to a coin toss like that. So I mean, flip a coin. Mine came up with Bryant, but I think that's going to be anybody's game. But I think whoever they go up against, I mean, Arizona's coming in pretty strong. So I think Arizona's gonna take this one overall.
So, Mike, I'm being cute here, but is there a science behind how many times out of 10 flips, how many times one comes up heads or tails?
Every time it's 50-50. So
okay, all right.
Theoretically have the 10 heads in a row.
All right. Mike?
I'm going to pick Wright State over Bryant and then Arizona, obviously.
I've got Wright State as well. Being an Ohio guy, had to go with the Ohio team. So,
and they're a good team.
Yeah, they are.
Very good team.
Yeah, they're good. And I got Arizona winning. So moving on down to here again, another great 8-9 matchup. Where's that quarter you got, Dr. Hylin? Seton Hall, TCU, where do you stand?
I have to. This is rooting because I had a colleague that was a TCU alum. So I had to root for TCU in this case.
I like his example, a TCU alum. Yeah. So that's the science behind how he picked that. So, okay, all right.
I picked TCU because they played Kansas tough all 3 times this year. And they're a tough basketball team. I like their head coach, and I think they can beat Seton Hall.
No disrespect to Seton Hall, but I think Jamie Dixon's done a great job. I think he's in his 5th, 6th year there. I'm going with TCU, and I like their colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do have nice colors.
Yeah.
Agreed.
5-12. Houston and UAB.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
I lived in Houston for 4 years there. They love their basketball, I'll tell you. So I went with Houston here. I got a little loyalty, I guess. Give it to that.
Houston has the ability to make it to the Final Four. That's how good this team is.
Yep.
Defensively, rebounding, guard play. I just don't see how they don't win this game.
I don't either, but it's that 12 seed
I
that
know.
you're looking at all the 12 seeds in here, and are they that
I know.
one?
One of them's got to win, right?
Absolutely. But all the respect for Coach Sampson at Houston. I mean, he's just done a marvelous job there. And I went with Houston as well. So, all right, this one may not be, or maybe it will be a popular pick, but we're getting a little close to home here in state with this next selection. You got at 4, you got Illinois, and at 13, you got Chattanooga. Mike, I'm really interested to hear what you think about this one.
The only time that I ever root for Illinois is when Bruce Weber's their head coach.
Okay.
And we know he's not their head coach.
He's not. No.
So I am on board the Chattanooga Choo Choo
Okay.
to beat Illinois.
I like that. Mike, what do you think?
I always got to go with Illinois. I mean, it just brand loyalty, I suppose. So I went with Illinois.
Well, Mike, I'm on that choo-choo as well. I was going through all this, and I'm like, I got to pick one upset.
Got to pick one 13-4.
And usually, I'm kind of in the Big Ten camp, but with this one, I just thought, I saw a little bit of their games, and
if Kofi's not playing, they don't win.
Right.
And he gets in foul trouble, and he's got to sit. And Chattanooga's a good basketball team that can give them troubles, even with Kofi in there. And I just like rooting against U of I.
Well, I just enjoy hearing you say the Chattanooga Choo Choo. So that was fun to say. I'm going on that. All right. Colorado State and Michigan. I know Michigan was one of those last 4 in, a bubble team there. Mike, thoughts on this game for you?
I'm going Colorado. It was a little bit of brand loyalty on this side of the bracket. So I went with Colorado.
Mike?
I went with the underdog, 11 over the 6. Again, Michigan plays the way Michigan can play. It's not even a close game. Colorado played in a good conference, had a really strong finish, but I don't think they can beat Michigan.
I went with CSU. I think they can do it, and Michigan's had
bunches of issues.
They've had their issues, but I think Colorado State they may have a chance on this one. So we'll see. Tennessee at 3 and Longwood at 14. I'll just jump in. I think we're all going with Tennessee on this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, Mike's laughing at this, and I think the other Mike might remember too. You got 7 in Ohio State, which for those of you who don't know, that's my alma mater, and Loyola of all teams. I screamed at the TV when this came on.
That popped up.
Oh no. I hope just Sluky Nation is the only one watching this because I'm just going to get mine out of the way. I went with Loyola.
Yeah.
I'm staying with Loyola. Oh boy,
That's a good pick.
It is.
thank you.
Loyola's guards are better than Ohio State's guards.
Oh yeah, they're
Flat
lights
out.
Absolutely.
Loyola can play defense like no other team in the country. Now, there's no matchup for Liddell. Liddell's going to be Liddell. But Liddell by himself can't beat Loyola.
I agree.
And I think Loyola wins this game.
Mike,
I'm with Mike. I think it's Loyola.
Boy, if there was ever I needed a neuroscientist, I needed him last night because I was all over the map with this one. But all right, we're going with Loyola.
I can understand the tendency to gravitate towards Ohio, though. I get it. There's that loyalty.
But if you think about it, if you pick Loyola and Ohio State wins, you've got the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
that's true. But Mike, you know how in life sometimes you go down that whole reverse psychology thing? Maybe in my heart, in my head, I was doing the whole reverse psychology thing. So, and I think Loyola is a great team. I really, really do. But this one was tough for me.
Yeah.
So,
I've heard of people picking teams that go get go against what they think just because that bad luck or whatever. So we could be wrong, and Ohio could come out.
Okay,
they're strong.
We got Villanova, Delaware. Villanova.
Yeah.
Okay. This is our last playing game. You got Texas Southern against Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. This could be a good game.
It could be. It could be.
I went with Texas Southern.
Yep. I did too. Too many letters in TCC A&M for me.
All right. So we're all
Texas Southern.
Once again, another tough 8-9 pick. Boy, this is one of those pull out your quarter again. So, Dr. Hylin, where are you on this one? San Diego State and Creighton.
I went with Creighton. They've got a good record. I think they stand pretty strong. So,
I agree with Dr. Hylin. I went with Creighton as well. They play enough defense. I think San Diego State's going to score.
Oh, yeah.
And Creighton's going to slow it down. Creighton can hit threes from all over the place. So if they're hitting their shots, they're going to win. If they have a bad evening from three, then it's going to be a tough game.
Okay. I got Creighton as well.
Yeah.
We got Iowa, Richmond. Well, I don't think this should be a traditional 5-12 game, but watching Richmond play for the championship last night, it could end up being that.
Yeah, I think it could be one of the better games of the tournament.
Yeah.
But Iowa is coming in on such a high, and I mean, they've just got such an offensive mindset now that nobody can stop them. And as good as Richmond can be, I still think Iowa beats the Spiders.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree. Iowa there.
I got Iowa too. And so we got a 4-ranked team in Providence, the Friars, and you've got 13. You got South Dakota State. What say you, Mike?
I go with the team that's going to score 90 points. I went with South Dakota State.
Mike?
I went with Providence, but I mean, South Dakota's got a good record though. So
I went with you. Those Jackrabbits, I think they're going to up and down the court. I think I went with South Dakota State as well. So
because I mean, they can hit threes, and teams who have won the NCAA have never shot less than 39% from three in a tournament. And South Dakota State's a team that can hit it 45%.
Right.
So they're never out of a game because they can shoot that three.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a fun game.
Yeah.
To watch. Getting close here. We got LSU and Iowa State. I went with Iowa State. LSU is just going through some turmoil right now.
Yeah, and this is probably the game that I care least about in the entire tournament. Don't care anything about either one of these teams.
Yeah.
I just went chalk on this. I just took LSU.
Okay. You went with LSU. Okay.
I went Iowa State, but I mean, I just LSU. I don't really think basketball with them anyhow. I think more football.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mike. So a couple more here. We got Wisconsin, Colgate. I went Big Ten on this one.
Yeah.
Mike?
Me too.
This game right here might be the game I want to watch the most. USC at 7 and Miami, Florida at 10. I'm going to start on this one. I went with Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I think they look awesome. They really do. They easily could have won the game they lost in the tournament.
Yeah.
I chose Miami.
Nope, I agree. I'm with you there.
100%.
All right. Well, last game in the first round, we've got Auburn and Jacksonville State, right?
Yep. As much as I hate Bruce Pearl,
Tell us how you feel.
I went with Auburn.
Mike?
Yep. Oh, Auburn. Yeah.
All right. Well, folks, that takes us through the first round. If nothing else, you've got a good head start on your bracket. We talked about we'd go back and kind of take a look at some of these. So I'm just going to maybe jump around here, and we'll eventually make our way to the final here. But it's 20 till, so I want to be cognizant of time. But we were different on the Arkansas game, Arkansas Vermont. We all had Gonzaga. I think we were, maybe it was just me that was split, but I had Gonzaga playing Arkansas. I think both of you have Gonzaga playing Vermont. We don't need to rehash the games, but maybe we look at the matchup here. I picked Gonzaga going out. Mike, you want to start on this one?
Yeah, Gonzaga against, for me, Memphis. They'll beat Memphis, I think.
Mike?
I think I see Gonzaga going all the way again on this. So I think who they go against is anyone's guess, but I think Gonzaga is going to come out on top.
Well, okay, so I already tipped my hand there again. I mean, I said Arkansas, Vermont, so I got Gonzaga going out to the Elite Eight on this side. Are either of you in disagreement with Gonzaga that far? Or?
No. But I do have Texas Tech playing Gonzaga in that Final Eight.
So, Mike, let's get your take on this. I've got Texas Tech too, and I've got Duke beating Davidson. We were a little different on Davidson and Michigan State, so I've got Duke playing Gonzaga in the Elite Eight. Mike, where are you standing on yours?
I went with Texas Tech on the Elite Eight.
Okay.
He
doesn't want to upset those Texas friends of his. Boy, that's all right.
I think Duke right now is too emotional with the way they're playing. And, I mean, they had a hand-given, a silver platter in that ACC tournament to get that title game and blew that. And now they played Virginia Tech, who was hotter than a pistol. But Duke is so up and down lately that they can't have a bad game and hope to come back. They're not a team that's going to come back on you this year, where in years past they could just clamp down the defense. But that's not Duke this year.
Well, Dr. Hylin got in my head on this one. Scientifically, I'm looking at everything, and I'm looking at Coach K, and I think Texas Tech probably can win, could win. I picked Duke to play Gonzaga. So let's move on down to we all have Baylor going out to at least the Sweet 16.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. I would even probably go as far as definitely the Sweet 16.
Okay, I've got UCLA beating Indiana.
Yep.
I think we were all okay. Baylor, UCLA. Boy, this was tough, but I went with UCLA.
I did because of Baylor's injuries. They just don't have a full team. And full team, Baylor probably wins that game.
Agree.
But UCLA right now, one of the best teams in the country. Baylor can be, even with the injuries, really, really good. But on a consistent basis, when these games are played back-to-back like that, tough.
Dr. Hylin, are you upset with your Texas folks? Or
No. I mean, as much as I like Baylor, I want to go with them. I think those are good points with respect to UCLA. You start getting into these wild cards and these variables, it really can even the playing field. So I think UCLA stands a strong chance there.
Okay, I'm going to make a few cautious assumptions, but do we all have Purdue playing Kentucky?
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got Kentucky going out. That was much as This will be the one that I'm wrong on. Purdue will,
Yeah.
will show up.
Because I picked Kentucky as well, and I love Matt Painter, but they're just not playing any defense right now, and that's not typical
Right.
Matt Painter. But that's just the team he has. They're offensive minded, but Kentucky can match them size for size and athleticism for athleticism, and I think Kentucky's the better team right now.
Mike, you agree? Or
I agree with Kentucky. I think it would be sad if a lot of friends of mine will be pretty upset if Kentucky don't win.
so do you want to? Why don't we finish out this bracket here? I think we all have Gonzaga going to the Final Four.
Yeah.
And UCLA, Kentucky. I got Kentucky.
I got Kentucky as well.
Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're all the same there. So let's go over to this side could be a little interesting. Arizona. I've got Arizona going out to. Well, I got Arizona going to the Final Four, so that's easy for me. You guys, where do you stand with Arizona?
I see them, coming out on TCU. I have Houston again. That loyalty kind of triumphing over Illinois. Illinois has carried it for a while, but I see Houston kind of going.
Mike?
I wanted to pick Houston to the Final Four, and they can get to the Final Four. I just think Arizona just has too much size.
I do too.
And the ability to play defense as well, that I think they're going to beat Houston and then beat Tennessee to get to the Final Four.
All right, so he's already tipped his hand. So I got Tennessee going out too. Mike, are you a volunteer?
I'm trying to stay loyal to Houston. So, but don't, I could be wrong. My loyalty's going with my gut. So,
All right. I've got Tennessee beating Villanova going out to play Arizona. Mike obviously has Houston. Mike, who do you got? Who do you have in the Elite Eight playing Houston?
let's see.
You get your choices. You got Loyola, Villanova.
I think it'll be Villanova.
I
I
had
think they're pretty strong.
You got
I had
Loyola
Loyola
going
beating Villanova, and then Tennessee beating Loyola to get to the Elite.
out. Okay. All right. So we're a little bit different on this one. So
Did you have Tennessee?
I've got Tennessee
Okay.
going out to play in Arizona
Yeah,
in
me
the
too.
Elite Eight. So bottom bracket here in the Midwest, Kansas, Creighton,
KU.
Kansas, Mike.
I go Kansas. Yeah.
Okay, and this is where I think could get interesting. You've got Iowa, and we were a little split on Providence, South Dakota State, but I've got Iowa going out playing Kansas.
I do too.
Mike, how about you?
Yeah.
Okay. And then down at the bottom, you get the whole Iowa State, Wisconsin, Miami, Auburn. I've got Wisconsin and Auburn playing. As much as I talked up Miami, I just got a little scared.
I went with Miami
Okay.
on that one.
Good for you.
I went with LSU and Auburn.
Ooh. Boy, you. Okay. All right. That is a little different there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, so why don't we just quickly go through our Elite Eight? Gonzaga, Duke, I think we were all on the same page there.
No,
He's got Texas Tech. Mike's got-
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sold here, so it's again being a little loyal to the Texans there.
That's fair.
but I got Zags over Texas Tech.
Okay. So you got Zags in the Final Four. UCLA, Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Yeah, I think we all
Yeah.
had that. So I have Arizona making it to the Final Four. You have Arizona.
Yes.
Mike, who do you have?
I had Houston, but
You-
I mean Arizona's strong.
Houston's a good pick, Mike.
Yeah,
They
I-
really are.
They are.
I wouldn't be shocked at all if they get there.
I think they could do it, although I do think Tennessee is scary good
Yes,
right now.
they are.
They could upset Arizona. And then at the bottom bracket here in the Midwest, I have, boy, as much as this hurt me, I took Kansas over Iowa getting out. I've got Kansas going to the Final Four, and I've got Wisconsin getting beat by Kansas. Mike, where are you on
I've got Iowa beating Kansas and then Iowa beating Auburn
Auburn?
to get to the Final Four.
Okay. How about you, Mike?
like I said, I think Miami will carry it in that game and in that bracket there.
Yep.
I could see Iowa going Iowa, Miami, and then maybe. I mean, I'd probably root more for Miami to come out on top on that one.
That would be the story of the year.
Boy, it would. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's possible. That's the nice thing about this year's tournament.
It is. So we got 10 minutes remaining here. I'm gonna just let's look at the Final Four. We all have Gonzaga.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all have Kentucky.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mike and I have Arizona. Dr. Hylin has Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And then do we all have Kansas?
No, I've got Iowa.
You've got Iowa.
Yeah.
And then Mike, what do you have in the final?
I went
Miami.
I went Miami, but I think I could see it easily going to Iowa.
Okay. I've got Gonzaga beating Kentucky.
I do too.
Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're all on that one. Then Arizona, Houston versus either Kansas, Iowa, or Miami.
I went with Arizona.
Mike?
I could very easily see it going to Arizona. Now you're winning me over.
Rain.
I mean, but I really would hope for Houston coming out. I think it'd be really cool.
Well, we've reached the final.
I like his
winner.
final better.
Yeah,
I really do. We'd love to see
that could be
Gonzaga and Houston play.
That'd be cool.
Two non-power 5. I mean,
that'd be cool.
Not blue bloods.
Would that be? That would be a first.
Probably not.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Probably
in
not.
History. That would be a great final game to watch. Mike, I don't know. I passed you maybe a month or two into the Sluky season. I said Arizona. You said, "Well, that you're not really going out on a limb there, are you?" But I'm going with Arizona. I just think I don't know. I just got this feeling.
They have had a tremendous year. New coach Tommy Lloyd came from Gonzaga.
Yeah,
and kind of rebuilt the team. Had a couple guys back, but rebuilt the team. 31-3. That's Now the Pac-10 is the conference that surprised everybody last year in the tournament,
right?
With Oregon State and UCLA and these teams all getting to the Elite Eight, and everybody was, where did this come from?
Right.
Because they're not, the strength of conference play is not very good, but the upper teams were apparently really good, and because where they play, we don't see them often enough. So we just go by what we hear. Mm-hmm. And this year I wasn't going to listen to that stuff. Arizona's a good team.
So you got
whether they're playing West Coast, East Coast, Canada, I don't care. But I have Gonzaga winning.
You got Gonzaga winning. All right. Dr. Hylin, who you got winning?
Gonzaga did, they're clearly good, but I'm going to go with Houston winning this. I'm going to go for that long shot.
Well, all you Texans, I hope you love Dr. Hylin because you've not upset anybody in that state, so that's good. For my Ohio folks, I'm sorry. I like trying to win this thing as hard as it is, but I had to go against my Buckeyes. But
who are you picking?
I'm going with Arizona.
Arizona.
I am going with Arizona. I just think they're too strong. Dr. Hylin, any final parting shots before we close?
I think a lot of this comes down. It's anyone's game. Sometimes when you kind of go through this, as I was following along last year, some of the ones that I think we thought were sure bets, they turned out to kind of surprise you a little bit. I think, I will say, I think Gonzaga is going to go pretty strong and pretty hard into this.
Mike, final thoughts?
I'm just really looking forward to this one because while generally 1 or 2 seed, maybe a 3 will get to the Final Four and win it, there's a lot of those other games intertwined in there that's going to make it the tournament that we all love,
Right.
day in and day out every year. And Mark Few has not won this game yet. Last year may have been his best shot to win it.
Yeah.
With the matchup against Baylor, and Baylor just played the game of its life a year ago to win. But I think this is the year of Gonzaga to win it with Drew Timme and that unbelievable freshman Holmgren. And their inside game is just so good, but it's an inside-out game because both of them can knock down threes. So you can't just guard them one spot on the floor. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning when it all gets underway.
I am too. So those of you who are watching, hopefully we've been helpful.
For entertainment
purposes, if nothing else. You can go back and rewatch. But I want to thank Dr. Hylin. I want to thank Mike Trude. It's always a pleasure to get together and talk a little bit about this. As I alluded to it at the beginning, this is one of my favorite times of the year. I think this is just such a great spectacle and just always look forward to it because it's sometimes it's the whole David and Goliath thing, and you see those underdogs, and I just love it. So again, I want to thank both of you for giving up an hour of your time. Again, I hope Saluki Nation enjoyed this. Good luck in picking your brackets, and let the madness begin. So as always, go Dogs. Take care.